Okay, so we are continuing our Indisputable Truth book series. We are on the third edition of the book, page 133. So we're on the section called "An Outstanding People." So I'll tell you the idea I had behind writing this section. I think one of the things that show us that, we went through all the proofs, we went through archaeology proofs, we went through, science proofs, prophecy proofs. We gave every type of proof you can think of, we gave, okay? Except for Torah codes. Torah codes is something I wish I put a section on that. I didn't, in the past. But B'ezrat Hashem for the next edition, we'll do it. But I think one proof, I think this is an historical proof, meaning that the Torah tells us that we're going to be a light unto the nations. That everywhere we go, we kind of talked about this in the 7 wonders, but we didn't give too much, attention to it. But the idea that the world will be blessed by the Jewish people. The Jewish people are going to be a light unto the nations. They're going to influence the entire world, okay? And I think the fact that the Jewish people, again, with all the things we said in the past, with their accomplishments, that is one of the greatest proofs that no way, we're an ordinary people. Meaning, no way that the Torah is man-made and, it's just, I don't think people, wish themselves, there's no way as much as the Jewish mother, convinces her kid to become a doctor or a lawyer, there's no way that's why, we're so successful compared to everybody else, because we have that Jewish mother, mentality. It has to be, there's something else. So we're going to talk about the astounding accomplishments, we're going to talk about moral accomplishments, and then we're going to talk about professional accomplishments. Okay? So the Jewish people also drastically excel in a variety of fields in comparison to the rest of the world. Again, not to say the rest of the world is bad, God forbid, but again, we have we have better numbers in a sense. Okay? Here's a list showing some of the many moral and professional accomplishments by Jews. So let's talk about moral accomplishments. Jews, compared to the secular world, have significantly lower rates of alcoholism and drug addiction. Okay, so again, we have the lowest rates of alcoholism and drug addiction in the U.S. Orthodox Jews, despite being 0.2 of the U.S. population, we make up 17% of altruistic kidney donations. Think of that. You know what altruistic kidney donations? Just for the people who are listening, is when someone when a living donor gives an organ to a recipient he or she doesn't know. So it's you giving an organ, a kidney, to somebody you don't even know. Jews make up 17% of altruistic kidney donations. That is crazy. Again, if you want all the the stats, the sources, go to the book. The footnotes have everything. Okay, Jews have the lowest rates of crime. Cambridge Professor Abrams cites both negative and positive evidence that murder, theft, rape, false swearing are offenses from which Jews were singularly free from in the Middle Ages. Mark Twain wrote in 1898, "The Jew is not a disturber of peace of any country." We never, when you have the problems in the country, we're never the ones causing whether it's an uprising, riots, this, that. Okay, even his enemies will concede that. So Mark Twain said, "The Jew is not a disturber of peace of any country." Even his enemies will concede that. He is not a loafer. He is not a sot. He is not noisy. He is not a brawler nor a rioter. He is not quarrelsome. In statistics of crime, his presence is conspicuously rare in all countries. With murder and other crimes of violence, he has but little to do. He is a stranger to the hangman. Jews are never the ones being hanged unless they're getting pogroms after them, but they're not the ones being hanged for crimes. In the police court's daily long roll of assaults and drunk and disorderliness, his name seldom appears. Again, these are not Jews saying these are non-Jewish people in history who've seen the Jews are different. They're not the ones, the head of the drug mafias. They're not the head of the cartels. It's never like that. On top of all this, our children, the Jewish children, are raised in secure 2-parent homes and receive an education that places a great emphasis on one's obligation to care for others and to family, to faithfully serving God. Okay, fine. So again, we see that we have, morality-wise, the Jewish people are excelling in all aspects. Guys, let's be realistic. Look at the war. Look at how we go to war. Show me one nation. Show me the Russians who do this. The Russians, look what you think before they go to war and they blow up Ukrainian innocent lives, you think they go and send leaflets saying, "Hey, we're about to bomb you, evacuate the building"? Right? Show me one nation that's doing that. Show me any nation in the world who's done that in history. Before, again, obviously the whole Palestinian conflict is a whole, mess and everything. And, even the Jews say if the Palestinians would stop blowing up people and terrorism, they'll let them live peacefully in the country. Listen, let's put it this way. They'll get treated more better if the Jews are running the country than the Palestinians. There's no need for them to run the country. Really. For them to want their own state, there's no need to. We give them equal rights. We give them everything. The reason why now it's just so scary and, they live in separate areas because literally they come and blow people up, But the point is that, all these, queers for Palestine and all these like different type of people, right? They're like, free Palestine, all this stuff. Guess what? If you were there, they would hang them. They go look in all these Muslim countries, they hang gay people, right? So they're fighting for a country that would literally kill them on the spot. In Israel, again, I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm just saying in Israel, they're not like that. They don't go kill people in the street like that for whatever they do. Okay, you do it in your own home, fine. But they don't do that. And on top of that, again, when we go to war, we send them. Who sends leaflets? Who warns them? They have a system where they call everybody in the area and they tell them to evacuate and they give them enough time to go. Okay. And the funniest thing is when you want to see the Palestinians when they make all their their movies and whatever to show like, oh my gosh, Israel. How do they know when they take the videos that exactly a missile is going to hit? And right when the missile hits, they make a little baby walk in the picture. Again, obviously far enough to not get hurt. But I'm just saying, like, you knew it was coming there. You knew they sent you leaflets before. Obviously, you're going to get a sick video of them shooting a missile. And you're going to make yourself close enough that not close enough to get hurt, but far enough that the little baby walks by to, the baby knew. The baby's a great actor also. Right in the picture, you see in the scene. Again, point of why am I saying this? I'm saying this is because it's ridiculous. How all the the UN and all these nations they hold us as if we're doing war crimes when all these other countries, when the Ukrainians and the Russians, or look in China, there's a Holocaust going on in China. No one knows this. They're killing Muslims. They're putting them in concentration camps and murdering Muslims en masse. Okay, and every other country goes to war. No one says a beep. Look in Syria. Look at the war. Look what they're doing in Syria. They're killing people left and right, slaughtering them. But all of a sudden, when Israel, before they go to war, with people are shooting missiles who are using, hospitals and school children and whatever human shields, right? When we send them leaflets to evacuate the area before we bomb the bomb that they're trying to shoot at innocent civilians, all of a sudden we're considered bad guys. Again, obviously the world is corrupt. Especially the UN. The UN is corrupt. The founder of it is anti-Semitic. Not the founder, the president. Whatever, we know that. That's why we're not, arguing with them. And, point is, I'm trying to say is that we, morally speaking, the Jewish people have been, on the top scale. I think we said this before, right? We gave the world 75% of the world. We gave them religion. I was just reading a book by Ken Spiro. It's called World Perfect, and I was going through the ideas how back then in the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, the pagan world back then, the Indians, right? They would, do human sacrifices. They would, kill, they would do infests. They would kill, little babies if they're handicapped or had any problems. They would kill women. They would kill, little girls, right? They would kill, the women were treated like garbage. They would murder people. They would rape people. Almost all the crimes you could think of were rampant. And the Jewish people came and they taught the world. We gave the world 75% of the world through Christianity and Islam, which is basically a breakaway of Judaism. Right, through Judeo-Christian values, but mostly Judeo values, right? We gave the world. America was founded on the laws of the Torah. The idea is what? That we gave morality to the world. We're the most, and again, that's what the Torah says, light onto the nations. Not light just being like, smart in science, but also light morally speaking. That's the main light, and that's the mission of the Jew. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, professional accomplishments, okay? Jews, statistically speaking, are the world's most educated religious group. Jews have the most years of schooling with an average of 13.4 years of schooling. 61% of Jews have attended a post-secondary, meaning beyond high school, degree. No other religious group has a percentage of more than 20%. So we have a 60% while everybody else has a 20%. Right? Jews worldwide have 4 years or more of schooling on average than the next most educated group, Christians, who average about 9 years of schooling. Muslims and Hindus are the least educated religious groups with just around 5.5 years of formal schooling. The global average is less than 8 years. So again, we have the highest level of schooling. Number 2, at the top universities, Columbia and Pennsylvania, Jews make up around 40% of students. By the way, that's not including faculty. Faculty is just as crazy. Jewish enrollment is currently estimated to be between 20 to 20 to 25% at Yale, Harvard, and Cornell, and 13 to 20% at Dartmouth, Princeton, and Brown. So again, the top colleges in the world, okay, the Jewish people are literally there. They make up a good percentage. Again, based off their numbers, they should be 1 or 2% of the school population, not 30 to 40%. That's unbelievable, okay? The Jews have also the highest household income of all U.S. religious groups. 44% of American Jews live in a household with a total income of $100,000 or more. Think about that. We're the highest, we have the highest household income. Okay, another statistic. About 14% of physicians, doctors in the U.S. are Jewish. Again, based off our numbers, we shouldn't be 14%. There's only 6 million Jews in America, and there's 300 million other people. We should make maybe 0.5%, maybe 1%, 14% of doctors. By the way, lawyers is just as high. Okay? Think of that. Doctors, lawyers, engineers. This is crazy. Jews make up 1/3, around 35% of the Forbes 400 world's richest people list. Okay, so take the 400 richest people in the world. Okay, Forbes has a list. 35% of the people on that list are Jewish. That is unbelievable. What? No nation has. Show me another nation that has stats based off our numbers. Again, we're only 16 million Jews in the world. Based off our numbers, that doesn't make sense. Okay? In high tech, in entrepreneurship, Jewish names include Intel, Groven Vadaz, I don't know how to say his last name. So Intel is by Jews. Google, Brendan Page, Jews. Oracle, Ellison. Oracle is created by Ellison, Jewish. Microsoft by Ballmer is the last name, Jewish. Dell, the last name is Dell, Jewish. Qualcomm is made by Jacobs, Jewish. Facebook, Zuckerberg and Sandberg, Jewish. Okay? By the way, ChatGPT, the guy who started ChatGPT, Jewish. Wow. You want to go to Hollywood? Look at Hollywood. Warner Brothers Studios, Jewish. I think MGM, I'm not so familiar with the names, but all these, Hollywood is literally made by Jews. Okay? Many of the actors in Hollywood are Jewish. Okay? Directors, producers, tons and tons of Jews. Okay? Again, percentage-wise, very high numbers. Okay? In finance, Goldman. So Jewish names include Goldman Sachs, Rothschild, Warburg, Kohlberg, Kravis and Roberts, Wolfogger, Lehman Brothers, Beer Stearns, and many more. Again, I'm not naming all the companies, like for example, Levi Jean, and so many companies. Ralph Lauren, I found out is Jewish also. So name it, all these huge, gigantic clothing brands, companies, Jews. Okay. Jews, again, and this is not to brag and say we're better. This has nothing to do with, being better. This is just trying to point out the idea that we have a high percentage of these numbers. That's the reality. We have a high percentage. There must be something we're doing different. And again, it's not that we're doing anything different, not that we're better. It's that God told us in the Torah, you will be a blessing to the nations. You will be a light unto the nations, and all the families of the earth will be blessed by you. Why? Because you guys took the responsibility of being the chosen nation. Again, but we'll talk about that later. Jews have held the title of world chess champions 54% of the time since 1866. Jews have won about 22% of Nobel Prizes. Again, based off our numbers, that's unbelievable. And 37% of Academy Award-winning directors are Jewish. Okay. In the 113th United States Congress, okay, from 2013 to 2015, Jews were elected to 11% of the U.S. Senate seats. Again, even in politics, it's a lot of politicians are Jewish. Okay, a lot of presidents. Okay, who are running? Who were, like, for example, I think Obama had a Jew as the Speaker of the House, right? Kamala Harris, husband is Jewish, right? Trump. Look at Trump's whole family. Everybody who surrounds themselves Jewish. Again, every single president. Again, even whether it's now, back then, in the past 10, 15 years, right? Jews have been surrounding them. Okay. Jews account for 3 of the 9 Supreme Court justices. Okay. We're finished with that section. Obviously, there's so many more things to say. You can't write everything in one book. Okay, we have to just get to the basic stuff, but there's way more to say on that of Jewish accomplishments in the physical world. Okay, so we talked about moral accomplishments, morally speaking. Again, there's way more to that in the professional accomplishments. Okay, let's go to a divine Torah produces a divine people. Let's finish with that section, and then we're finished. Okay, and then the next time we'll do we'll get into now what I would say is the third part of the book, meaning the first part was proving God. And Torah. Second part was purpose of life. Second part of the book. Okay, let's go. A divine Torah produces a godly people. Members of our communities, of the Jewish communities, are for the most part are happier, more inspired, and more spiritually uplifted, and even relatively healthier, okay, than people of other communities. I saw a study that said that Jews in Bnei Brak, okay, have the lowest, again, it's one of the most religious areas in Israel, okay, have the lowest rates of heart disease, which is pretty crazy, okay? Let's keep going. So again, if you're happy, if you're religious, you have lower, you're healthier, okay? Certainly those unique individuals, which we call Gedolim, community leaders, who are the most dedicated to Torah, spending every available moment studying Torah and doing mitzvot, often seem more like angels than humans in terms of their perfection and refinement of character. The countless stories told about them of the devotion, care, and self-sacrifice are truly awe-inspiring and motivate the rest of the communities to follow their examples. But all this is not surprising, because the true divine religion would be expected to produce the most holy, perfect, and saintly individuals, as well as the best places to live. Nevertheless, there do exist unethical Jews, since God made the world with free choice and doesn't force anybody to be righteous. Most of the time, the reason why they're unethical is because they don't learn or keep the Torah. As far as people who look religious and commit unethical actions, we'll explain in the section titled "Why Bad Things Happen to Good People" that some people look religious, quote unquote, but simply may be wearing a costume. Okay, we'll talk more about that. But the idea is, again, percentage-wise. Okay, there's always going to be bad apples in everything. But percentage-wise, right, and again, there's free choice. Percentage-wise, though, the Jewish people have, again, all the things I just said. Okay, so keep reading here. Where else in the world can one find study groups that gather each day to learn how to perfect one's character traits and perform kindness in the best ways possible? It is therefore becomes evidently clear that living a life of Torah is an excellent decision, even if one does it for the benefit it brings in this world. There is nothing wrong with doing mitzvah for one's personal benefit. However, one should have in mind that he's also doing it as a part of his obligation to Hashem. In other words, we must understand that although we gave many reasons for the beauty of living a Torah life, at the end of the day, the main reason for a religious observance, our relationship with Hashem, is not based on the great pleasure and benefits that comes out. That's not why we're in this. In other words, that's not why we're keeping the Torah and doing mitzvah. We learn Torah, keep Shabbat, keep kosher, and do whatever we do simply because the Torah is true and because God said so. That is the only reason we are observant. If God wouldn't have said it, we wouldn't have to do it, despite all the benefits that could come with observing the Torah's commandments. So why did I add this section? I remember this in the second edition of the book, I didn't have this section. I added this section because I met an author of another book called Ka'asher Siva Hashem. Okay. And the whole book is about whatever, it's all about, having intent when you do mitzvahs. And the author of that book, when I told him, about my book and what I was writing, how I was proving the Torah from God, he pointed that out to me, that the fact that the Jewish people produce such godly people is in of itself a proof that the Torah is from God. Because again, if the Torah is the book from God, and the whole point of the Torah is to refine you, make you a better person, right? Therefore, we must see that the most ethical and the most morally just people will come out of it. Again, there's always free choice for people to come bad, and there are sour apples. I'm not saying no. But I'm saying, generally speaking, percentage-wise, we see in the Jewish world that the Jews have a high level of morality, and especially the leaders, the people who live by the Torah. Again, the Gedolim, what we call, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, the Ben Ish Chai, Baba Sali, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rav Noach Weinberg, whatever, the big-time Gedolim, the big rabbis, Rav Aaron Steinman, Rav Eliashiv, name after name. Those people, again, who are considered our leaders, the Gedolim, the big rabbis. Gedolim means big rabbis, right? Those people, because they study Torah all day, they should be the most ethical people. And if you read their biographies and stories and whatever, you see that those people are some of the world's, most moral people and great people. Okay, fine. Great, individuals. So next time we'll do page 136. We'll finish there. Thank you so much for listening. We'll finish there. Thank you.